Hello and welcome to Career Magic. My name is Nitin Kulkarni and I'm here today to talk about an aspect of people management. Many of you would be managing teams, and I hear this a lot from people I talk to who are people managers that, you know what, it's really hard to keep people motivated. They want the moon, they want a promotion every year. They want a 20%, 30%, 50% salary hike and big bonuses every year. I just don't know how to keep them motivated. The trouble is that we don't do some of the basic things right. So I know many of you, when listening to this video, will say, yeah, all this is fine, but they still want a promotion every year. Well, in another video, I had talked about working in our circle of influence and doing what we can do better, doing things right. And then things slowly start to turn around. So, what I'm going to talk about today is 4 things that you must do in order to really differentiate yourself as a people manager, get your team motivated and charged up, and have people talk about you as the best people manager they have ever had. So there are these 4 things that will set you up in that direction, but these are things you must do. So what are those 4 things? The first thing that you must do as a people manager is give meaning to what they do. What does that mean? What that means is that you have to connect them with the mission of the organization. They should be very, very clear about what sort of impact the organization is making and the fact that they are making a contribution to that mission. In this context, I am reminded of a story about the American president from the 1960s, John F. Kennedy. Very charismatic president. He fairly early in his presidency made a pronouncement that we are going to send, as a nation, we are going to send a man to the moon and bring him safely back to the earth, really important, within this decade. Now that's a really wonderful, smart goal and a really big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG. When he made that pronouncement, it just charged up the whole nation. Everyone was talking about it and people were thinking about it. During that time, he used to go I don't know if it was called NASA at that time, but he used to go to that office and talk to people about how things were progressing. And he would go there regularly, and then after finishing his meetings, he would walk around the office and talk to people. And on one of those walks, he met a person who was sweeping the floor. And so, as was customary, he would stop by and say, "Hey, buddy, what's happening?" So this fellow said, "Yeah, I'm doing fine, sir." He said, "What are you doing?" And this man says, "Sir, I'm helping to put a man on the moon." Think about it. This is a man who is sweeping the floor. Now, this is an organization in which a person whose work is fairly disconnected from the ultimate mission still understands what the mission of the organization is and how they are connected to it. They are able to identify with that mission, which motivates and charges them up. Think about, do your people that you manage understand and appreciate and are proud of the mission of your organization? And do they understand how they are contributing to it? Even before you do that, do you understand what the mission of the organization is? Or are you all just caught up in the daily tasks, projects, and all you think about and know is that I am doing this task, I am doing this project, I have to do it well? Well, it's not good enough. If you want your people to be really motivated, you want to be the best people manager, make sure you give meaning to their tasks, to their roles. So that is Item number one. The second, what is the question you are answering for them? Why am I here? You are giving them that answer. The second question you've got to answer for your people regularly is, what does that mean? So you've told them, why am I here? What does that mean? And that talks about how they should be behaving, they should be conducting themselves, and how they should be completing their tasks so that it is congruent with the mission of the organization. So why am I here? What does that mean? So you're constantly reminding them. In this context, one of the best things you can do is periodically have meetings with the stakeholders to whom you are delivering the work, and have your team, your stakeholders talk to your team also and tell them how their work is making a difference to what they are doing, and then leading up to ultimately the mission of the organization. Why am I here? What does that mean? Two important questions you have to be answering. The third thing you have to do for your people to be the best possible people manager is to answer the question, how am I doing? One of the worst things for a person when they are doing something is to not get any feedback about how they are doing. They'd like to know if they've done a good job. They'd like to be appreciated for it and be told what exactly it was they did well, very specifically. And if they didn't do something well, they'd like to be told that, hey, this needs improvement and this is what I'd like to see you do. So how am I doing is a really important question. Unfortunately, in most organizations with most managers, the question of how am I doing is left to the end of the year, when they are told how they are doing as a justification for their performance appraisal, which is not a very good thing at all. I tell all managers that the performance appraisal at the end of the year should never be a surprise. You've got to be constantly telling them week on week how they are doing, and providing them very, very candid, very, very meaningful feedback. So the third question, how am I doing? The fourth question you have to be answering for your people constantly is, how can you help me get better? So that's what your people are asking you as their manager, as their leader. How can you help me get better? What is it that you are doing to assess them continuously, consistently, and providing them with the inputs, with the training programs, and the suggestions to help them get better? Jack Welch, the legendary CEO of General Electric, once said that the greatest responsibility of a leader is to develop people. So your job is not to be better than your people or to do your tasks really well. That's not your primary responsibility. As a people manager, your primary responsibility is to use the leverage of your team to get the best out of them, because then you're very, very powerful. So developing your people, answering that last question, how can you help me get better, is really important. So what are the 4 questions? Why am I here? So meaning. What does that mean? So therefore, how should I behave and what should I do in order to be congruent with that? Number 3, how am I doing? Feedback. Number 4, how can you help me get better? So developing them, giving them inputs, giving them training, mentoring them so that they are constantly growing. Do these 4 things, because that is a big responsibility on you. How do you make it real? Well, I always advocate in terms of how we plan our work, how do we manage our time. For time management, I always talk about weekly planning. If you are doing weekly planning every week, if you are sitting down and thinking about the week that went by and the week that's coming and what you should be doing in that week, list down these 4 questions and review. Did you do anything along these lines with your people? If not, make sure you do something next week. So it's not something that you would be doing every day, But over a period of time, over a couple of weeks, over a month, you've got to be constantly checking to see if you are doing these four things in order to be the best possible people manager that you can be. So that is what it is for today. Start doing these four things and you will see magic happen in your career. All the best to you. That's all for today. See you on the next edition of Career Magic.